Health Unabashed on Healthcare Now Radio. The show spotlights and features promising health and wellness innovation in pursuit of a sustainable and equitable healthcare delivery and financing system. Hosted by digital health advocate, author, and global thought leader Gil Bashe, the show looks at the thought-provoking ideas, people, and companies that are making a difference. I'm Gregg Masters, the executive producer and co-host of the show, and join Gil as we engage industry talent who share their insights and best practices to enable sustainable ecosystem change. On today's show, our guest is Unity Stoakes, co-founder and president of StartUp Health. We discuss the vision for the company's value proposition as steward, convener, and catalyst for digital health and value-based care innovation. And with that introduction, Gil, over to you.
Gregg, thank you so much. A double thank you today, because obviously as the co-host of the program and executive producer, you keep really the trains running on time. But this week you outdid yourself by reaching out and finding us the ultimate guest for the program, Unity Stoakes, who is the co-founder and president of StartUp Health. And he really is a pioneer, an icon when it comes to health innovation. So Gregg, I want to extend my thanks to you and the thanks to all of our listeners for reaching out and getting us such a wonderful guest. Unity, welcome to the program. It's a thrill to have you with us.
Gil, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. I'm so grateful to be here. And Gregg, I really appreciate the invitation and the discussion we're about to have. I'm really looking forward to.
You know, I think our listeners know you so well from your role at StartUp Health. And for anybody who's been to JP Morgan or Vive, they know that StartUp Health really is a centerpiece of those meetings. And just to be honest with our listeners, when I used to fly into San Francisco prior to COVID to attend JP Morgan, I didn't attend JP Morgan. Everybody was saying, why don't you show up at the Drake? I said, no, I'm going down the street to this theater. StartUp Health is meeting there. And I would have the most incredible, real, edgy conversations with really some of the movers and shakers of health innovation in the world. And so, Unity, I want to thank you and your team for certainly inviting me to those forums, but making sure that they're held. And I want to make sure that we hear a little bit about what your plans are for 2023. But I want to jump into this really quickly. You're a pioneer beyond the StartUp Health experience. You recognized the importance of collaboration and bringing people together long before people were saying collaboration is a superpower. It's a way of helping us navigate a very fragmented health ecosystem. And you started as a founder of a different organization that kind of morphed into StartUp Health. And that was Organized Wisdom. Can you tell us a little bit about that stage of the journey?
Yeah, collaboration really goes to the genesis of my whole life, actually. One of the reasons my mom gave me the name Unity, I grew up on a farm called the Sunshine Farm, which was a collective and collaborative in Iowa. Another story for another time, but I bring that up because
it sounds like your parents were renegade hippies of the 60s there or something, no?
Yes. Well, I was born at a Bob Dylan concert, if that gives you any indication.
It does. It does. I thought you were going to say Woodstock there for a moment.
Yeah. But, the concept of community, of acting locally, thinking globally, of collaboration. I grew up near, on a farm near Amish country where people work together to do things. So anyway, getting back to your main question, about 17 years ago, we launched Organized Wisdom, which was really tapping into the wisdom of crowds at the time. The whole concept was leaning into all the amazing health knowledge, health wisdom that exists out there in the world, and using the wisdom of the crowds and collaboration to filter up the best knowledge, the best information, the best health information. Sadly, we built, I think, the first digital doctor's office at that time, and it was really a business that was way too early for what the market was ready for. And that really led us to the creation of Startup Health, which is now 11 years old when we launched Startup Health, which was really to create a platform, an ecosystem approach to leaning into collaboration as a core foundational principle to transforming the future of health, and really recognizing that it wasn't going to be any one person or organization or even country that solves the biggest health challenges of our time. We saw a bigger opportunity to really focus on the network effects that come with collaborative innovation. And that started with our learnings from Organized Wisdom. We worked on that business for about 5 years, and there were not networks at that time of tons of investors investing in digital health or health technology. There was not thousands of entrepreneurs and innovators working on new innovative healthcare technologies. There was a lot of great medicine, a lot of great R&D, but not necessarily kind of a new lens on health innovation. So we learned a lot during that era. We really learned a lot about the challenges and some of the needs that existed for the market.
Yeah, I'm wondering, listening to you, it gives me a sense that you have a pattern recognition superpower. The sense of looking and recognizing that you were inventing something a little bit before the market was sort of ready to sort of put its arms around it and embrace it. And I'm wondering, from your Startup Health experience now, your work as a publisher, as a writer, as a champion of community, because I think the health innovation world is a community. I think we have, generally people in the digital health world have tremendous fondness for each other. I don't think they see each other as competitors. I think they see each other as complementers. They're rooting for each other's success. And Startup Health has really become a platform for them to come together as a team to share wisdom, organized wisdom, and help each other sort of press forward. But I'm kind of wondering if our world is always sort of ill-prepared for innovation that can improve the human condition. That, excuse me, the system, I noticed with payers, particularly in the area of digital health, often when a digital health idea innovation gets that FDA approval, perhaps a 510K approval, and they have good clinical data, that suddenly the payer says, claim denied, insufficient data. And you and your colleagues have all that experience. I want to get your take. Does the culture of health actually stifle innovation in some ways?
Yeah, there's this paradox I think we're living in now, in a couple of ways. Number one, there's extraordinary innovation going on as it relates to medicine, for example, and certain aspects of healthcare, where we're seeing a lot of leaps forward, just real transformations. I think the vaccine is a recent great example, but there's many more as it relates to different cancer innovation, as an example. Just a lot of real progress is being made, but at the same time, we're not seeing the business of healthcare really make the same types of progress. I'm speaking specifically about business model innovation in one sense, but I'm also speaking about just the construct that health is, a part of the human condition, a part of the human need at global scale. There's over 5 billion people in the world that have zero access to any sort of care at all. So I think there's some real structural issues that, we can have the best innovation in medicine, we can have a lot of progress with technology. But if we're not getting to some of the core structural issues, then it's going to limit our ability for impact. And that leads me to this other paradox that I think we're seeing, which is, in one sense, progress around health innovation is going very, very rapidly. I think there's been extraordinary progress in the past decade, but on another plane, it's moving way too slow, at least for our liking. So we're seeing a lack of progress on many levels at the same time that there's this extraordinary innovation going on. It's conflicting, but also very exciting.
Along those lines, I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit of the behind the scenes life at StartUp Health. You're supporting hundreds of companies, thousands of people are involved in this. You're giving them a platform to learn, to exchange, to hone the idea, to get out there and finance it and resource it. Could you share what you think are some of the real big obstacles that these innovators face in terms of going from where they are when you and your colleagues sort of embrace them, adopt them, give them a home or a platform, and then they go out to pursue the idea? What are some of the walls they bump into?
And if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Health Unabashed on Healthcare Now Radio. Our guest is Unity Stoakes, co-founder and president of StartUp Health. We're discussing the vision for the company's value proposition as steward, convener, and catalyst for technology-informed healthcare innovation.
Yeah, that's a tremendous question. I bucket it into three big categories. I think first relates to the concept of inspiration. I think for many years, and we're still continuing to tackle this challenge, but many of the best entrepreneurs, many of the best innovators were going to technology companies. They were going to management consulting companies. They were going to Wall Street. They weren't necessarily going into this new category, digital health innovation or health innovation. That's largely been rectified in many ways, but there's still big gaps. We don't have enough founders who are women. We don't have enough diverse founders, very few indigenous founders, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a big opportunity just to inspire a new generation of builders and creators into the health innovation landscape. So that's one challenge, because when you have diverse ideas, diverse thinking, that's where the true magic can happen. The second, I think, comes around the construct of education. A lot of doctorpreneurs, for example, a lot of creators who are really innovating with products or medicines or extraordinary digital therapeutics, there's a gap with the knowledge and education to take that R&D and commercialize it. So everything in between, this vast gap exists of getting that extraordinary innovation out to the world, out to the market, with business models that are actually going to be sustainable or create growth business. And then the third area is really the challenge of investment. And we've seen billions of dollars flow in to the health tech or digital health space over the past decade. But there's a disconnect of how those dollars are being invested with the results that we've seen economically or commercially. So I can't name $100 billion company outside of pharma or biotech that's been created in the past decade, as an example. I think that's a challenge. So we need to almost take a deep breath here and analyze what's happened over the past decade so that we can change some of the structural issues over the next decade.
Now, this is so important. A lot of your efforts are now centered around digital health or health technologies, and there's very little doubt in my mind, at least, that we have a very fragmented health ecosystem. I had the privilege of moderating a meeting of CEOs a few years back, and you had CEOs from some of the nation's largest payers, pharma CEOs, you had provider systems, CEO of large provider systems, people from government, known people from government who have positions of power at the federal and state level. And we had some select patient representatives. And so one of my roles was to moderate a round table of representatives of this health ecosystem. And what became very apparent to me very quickly, and to them, is they actually had absolutely no idea how each other made money. They understood what each other did. They didn't understand how each other operated. So in fact, they sort of see themselves as competing for a piece of this 20% of our GDP pie, which is vast. And because they live in a mindset of scarcity. I don't know how you're making money. I know how I'm making money. If you're making money, maybe I'm not making money. And I want to get your read on that, because you're championing companies who really, from an information standpoint, whether it's health IT or digital health, they could really make our system operate much more efficiently and therefore effectively, maybe even accelerating access to care or people's care, and improving outcomes. And yet, in my impression, having been at the private equity side and representing and on boards of health innovators, it seems so damn hard. Why is it so damn hard?
I think your question is profound. It gets to the heart of, I think, the biggest challenge to the gap between health innovation and impact today, which is the business models and the incentive structure around health and healthcare today is flawed in many regards. It's very convoluted, it's confusing. And my bet is, if I went out to talk to 10 entrepreneurs today in this sector, 9 of them wouldn't truly understand who's paying, how they're making money, and they're in the sector. So the lack of transparency, the challenges with the structural business models is a big issue. First and foremost, because these amazing creators today need to understand they could save multiple years on their innovation cycle by just truly understanding how the money flows and how their business model is going to work at scale. That would be one, just working within the system today. The larger opportunity long-term is around business model innovation. A whole category around creating business models around the category of prevention rather than sick care, and that shift, I think, is a tremendous opportunity. I believe, in fact, I gave a talk at South by Southwest, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, called the $100 trillion market. And if health is, $10 to $13 trillion global market today, I believe it should be a $100 trillion market in the next 20 years, not because costs are going up, but because the health, wellness, and healthcare market's being expanded to every human on earth with new business models, new affordable care that really is being delivered to all. So I think there's a tremendous opportunity here by first understanding those structures and flows and business models that exist today, so that we can build more viable, great, sustainable companies that then disrupt and reinvent the business models of the future.
It's so funny you're talking about reinvent the business models of the future. And medicine has many micro business models. And I think of, let's say, the OBGYN. And I don't know, when I'm traveling the world and I'm meeting with digital health innovators who have medical technologies, and they say, this technology I have will allow the family or the pregnant woman to monitor the health of her fetus and it stages, and all she needs to do is put this here on her stomach, and voila, it will reduce the number of visits to her OBGYN. And I sit there and I say to myself, really, really, do you think the OBGYN community is going to sort of stand up and say, hallelujah, we want to empty out our waiting rooms? I'm wondering if it starts to some extent on the medical side with our training. And I just want to give a thought. We're producing in this country, and in many cases, the developed world, some of the best clinicians in the world. I mean, the United States and Europe and United Kingdom, Germany, Israel, others, Singapore, India, amazing health professionals. And yet when I speak to them about their health education, they go through understanding body parts. They understand specifics. It's getting even more specific. I know orthopedic surgeons who only understand the wrist. No, I'm not really interested in hips. I'm not interested in shoulders. I just do wrists. And so now we're creating micro professionals. And I'm wondering if we're actually need to embed in medical school training about health information and digital health as a primary learning module in the future of our health professionals. And I don't see that happening. I think that doctors have to upskill in order to come up to par with the innovation sector. I wonder if you ever look at that or think about the fact that our system would go smoother if doctors felt more confident and competent about the use of digital health technologies.
I totally agree. I think the fundamental issue here is one around education and knowledge, because you have some of the smartest, most innovative people in the world, clinicians, for example, who have all this knowledge and wisdom and are bringing innovation to market, and then again this gap to getting that market through the system and out to the world in a way that will drive impact. In a sense, I see that as one of the things I'm proud of at Startup Health that we're focused on, which is really working to bridge that gap. In a lot of ways, I see us as a university for doctorpreneurs, or health transformers, as we call them, so that we can provide them the resources, the knowledge, the education on how to take their extraordinary innovation and get it commercialized at scale out into the world over many years and multiple stages of growth. Because what we believe is, if we can do so as a collaborative approach, we talked about that at the beginning, if we can do this in a way that breaks down the silos of data, and if we can start to train these extraordinary creators, clinicians, doctorpreneurs, and save them a lot of pain, a lot of cycles, so that they're educated not just on the medicine, or not just on the how to build an extraordinary health tool or health product, but if we can guide them and help them navigate on all the other steps that are needed to make impact, I think it will speed up innovation. I think we need to think of health innovation in a more holistic sense. And that's why I keep coming back to the business model innovation. I think it's a core pillar to how we need to educate these doctorpreneurs and health transformers.
So true. No, we could continue this for hours. I wish we could. So as we wrap up this segment, I wanted to ask you, where are we going to see Startup Health? Are we going to see you at Vive again? Or are we going to see you at JP Morgan? What's the plan?
We have November at the health conference, HLTH in Las Vegas. We'll be having and hosting our next Startup Health Festival. Really, really excited about it. We'll have about, we've invested in about 450 companies from 29 countries. We'll have about 200 of them there at Las Vegas in November. I believe it's November 13th. So that will be our next event. We'll, of course, be at JP Morgan in January. And now that the world's opening up again, we're really going to be doing virtual events as well as in real life kind of community gatherings every month and globally. So really excited to get back out there into the world and be meeting face to face with entrepreneurs and health transformers.
I'm thrilled that you're going to be physically at JP Morgan again in health. Totally, absolutely worth your while. Some of the greatest names who are really the drivers of health innovation are moderators or speakers at panels, as well as some of the edgiest companies of the future that will change the face of the health ecosystem are there. I have enjoyed immensely my walking the halls, chatting with people, offering ideas, being there. That's the advantage, I guess, of having a little white in your beard. People assume perhaps you'll know something. And it's a privilege to be an extension of the community. I enjoy my little pin. I wear it with pride. I also want to thank you, Unity, for your pioneering spirit. You've done more than really create a sense of organized wisdom, which was essential, and then recognize that the startup community needed a collaborative place to hang its hat. You've represented the spirit of this. I think your parents really were prophetic when they said, let's name him Unity. You are very much so what our industry needs. Thank you so much for being on Health UnaBASHed today. And Gregg, thank you. Also a call out to our friend, our mutual friend, Jamie Edwards, who brought all of us together. Thank you, Unity. Thank you, Startup Health. We'll be seeing you soon.
Thank you so much. An honor to be here. Thank you.
And that is a wrap for today's broadcast. We want to thank our listeners for tuning in and our guest, Unity Stoakes, co-founder and president of StartUp Health. For more information or to follow Unity's work at StartUp Health, go to www.startuphealth.com and do follow on Twitter via @StartUpHealth and @UnityStoakes, and that's STOAKES. You can learn more about Health UnaBASHed on the program page at healthcarenowradio.com. We air weekdays at 10:30 a.m., 6:30 p.m., and 2:30 a.m. Eastern, or 7:30 a.m., 3:30 p.m., and 11:30 p.m. Pacific. Do keep the conversation going with Gil and me on Twitter by connecting with us via @Gil_Bashe, and that's BASHE, and Gregg Masters, MPH, and that's Gregg with 2 G's. And do remember to tag your tweets with #HealthUnaBASHed. Until next time, stay unapologetically passionate about improving health.